Hello, welcome to the Potomac View. I'm your host, Nicole from Washington, D.C. The Potomac View is a brand new program where we explore the hottest issue at the intersection between the U.S. and the Communist China. Our goal is to shed some unique light on the truth behind everything we hear from the mainstream media and help you, our audiences, to form your own opinions. Before we get started, I want to make a very important distinction. China and Chinese people are not equal to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Just like the US and American people are not equal to a single political party. But unlike the United States, the Chinese people do not get to elect a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The Chinese Communist Party tightly controls the media and narratives in China. But the censorship doesn't stop at the Chinese border. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how American companies have wound up being an extended arm of the CCP's censorship and propaganda, and what it means to you and where this country is heading towards. On December 17, 2021, Reuters had a long article about Amazon's partnership with the Chinese government. It's part of Amazon's business strategy to court favor of the Chinese Communist Authority in order to gain the world's largest consumer market. The article examined an internal document of Amazon in 2018 that describes Amazon's business development in China. According to this document, Amazon recognizes ideological control and propaganda is the core of the toolkit for the Communist Party to achieve and maintain its success. In addition, the company stated their attitude point blank: we are not going to make judgment on whether it is right or wrong. I was startled by these texts. The acceptance of the communist propaganda by Amazon is like American company approving Nazi Germany's goal of ideological control during World War II, or Americans recognizing the former Soviet Union's propaganda during the Cold War. The document went on and explained how Amazon introduced its ebook and Kindles to China with the help of a state propaganda organ directly controlled by the CCP's propaganda department, China's National Press and Publication Administration, or NPPA. To secure a license and court favor of the CCP, Amazon sent a senior executive, Jay Carney, to Beijing and buddy up with the CCP authority. Carney was a former White House press secretary during the Obama administration, who also served as a communication director for the then Vice President Biden. Carney is leading Amazon's global lobbying and public policy operations. Amazon achieved amazing results and won the support of the Chinese government to sell its ebook and Kindles. In 2018, China became Amazon's largest global market for Kindles, with more than 40% of the total sales volume. Amazon's web service is thriving in China as one of the largest providers to Chinese companies globally. How did Amazon manage to have the freedom of press to which the Chinese people are categorically denied? Here is a partial list of what Amazon did. Marketing Xi Jinping's thoughts and disabling comment sections so that no negative reviews would be shown to the public. Marketing CCP's propaganda on Xinjiang as a happy place to enjoy life without persecution and human rights atrocity. Praising CCP's response to COVID-19 as a role model for the world. The list goes on, but it doesn't stop at promoting CCP's propaganda. Amazon also showed its willingness to turn in anybody wanted by the CCP authority. According to that internal document, in February 2018, the CCP's Public Security Bureau requested Amazon to remove the content and block a website hosted in the US for a prominent Chinese dissident, Mao Guo. Mao Guo is the leader of the Chinese whistleblower movement, followed by hundreds of millions of Chinese dissidents who vowed to take down the CCP. Amazon refused the request, but asked Mao Guo to take an action that exposed his IP address. Amazon provided Mao Guo's IP address to the CCP authority. I remember the promise made by the former US President Clinton and George Bush when they championed China's entry to WTO. They said American companies doing business in China will change China and help China become a free society. 20 years later, American companies did not change China. The CCP changed American companies. When I was a young student in China, I was looking up to America as a beacon of hope. I assisted with the translation for the American media when they were covering the Tiananmen student movement in 1989. When the Chinese government labeled the peaceful students and civilians as rioters in order to justify the brutal crackdown, the American media fairly and accurately covered the event. The image of that one man standing in front of the tank became the iconic symbol of the Chinese people's fearless pursuit of freedom and justice. The CCP said they didn't fire a bullet and did not kill a single life. America stood up for thousands of lost lives and their grieving families with their independent and courageous reporting. America was the beacon of Chinese hope. It pains me to see American companies are now profiting from the forced labor of Uyghurs in Xinjiang concentration camps, and America's richest company becoming a tool of CCP's propaganda and censorship. Today, the world's largest news agency, Xinhua, dominates the entire world. Xinhua News Agency is a ministry level, the highest ranking state media organ directly controlled by the CCP. Xinhua provides more than 3,000 news stories daily through its 24/7 services in 12 languages, including English, French, Spanish, Russian, Italian, Japanese, to news agencies from 200 countries and regions in North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and Africa. The contents include text, images, videos, and audios. Xinhua is proud of its work and very open about its mission mandated by Chairman Mao. Take control of the globe. Let the whole world hear our voice. They proudly put this mandated mission on its website. The English website has a prominent section dedicated to Xi Jinping's thoughts. The whole idea of the state-run media is to glorify the party's thoughts and impose its dominance on the rest of the world. In 1937, an American journalist, Edgar Snow, wrote a book called Red Star Over China. It was the first account of the CCP when it was a guerrilla army and still obscure to the West. Snow's book endeared the Red China to the West. Mao highly praised this book. Today, the Communist China has emerged as the single most powerful dictatorship of the world, threatening to take over the world by force. Today, the Chinese Communist Party controls the narratives on almost everything, from China news to US election, climate change, European Union, Cuba, Venezuela, South Africa, and Afghanistan. Knowing their lack of credibility around the world, the CCP has adopted a strategy called 借船出海, which means borrowing others' boat to sail into the sea. It means the CCP uses the foreign media outlets as vehicles to spread its propaganda. To date, Xinhua has signed cooperation agreements with leading Western news agencies and media outlets, including AP, AFP, and Reuters. In November 2015, AP's president and CEO Gary Pluitt came to Beijing and signed a cooperation memorandum with Xinhua News Agency. Pluitt spoke highly of Xinhua's work and pledged to make his best efforts to accelerate AP's cooperation with Xinhua. In December 2018, AFP's president and CEO Fabrice Fries came to Xinhua headquarters in Beijing, shook hands with the party officials, and agreed to expand AFP's cooperation with Xinhua in video and new media. In September 2019, Reuters President Michael Friedberg visited Xinhua News Agency in Beijing and agreed to increase Reuters' cooperation with Xinhua in video and AI applications. Imagine the allies of the World War II signed memorandum of cooperation with Nazi Germany's propaganda department. Today, the CCP's propaganda is taking the world by storm, and here we are, Red Star over America and the entire world. In February 2020, the State Department finally designated 5 Chinese state-run media outlets as foreign missions as part of its effort to counter CCP's dominant influence and propaganda on the US soil. This is a good start, but not nearly enough. CCP's propaganda is now being carried by America's own media outlets and news agencies. We've come to the point in the history where we can either live in a world dictated by the Chinese Communist Party or we take the red pill and look for the truth ourselves. Fortunately, we do have that option, and we are here to help. If you are willing to embark on this journey of truth discovery, these are my recommendations. 1. Follow the Chinese whistleblower movement, and their mission is point blank to take down the CCP and expose the most censored information and facts that CCP does not want you to know, such as the true origins of the COVID-19. The Chinese whistleblowers has created their own media platform, such as G News and GTV, to tear down CCP's Iron Curtain. The leader of the Chinese whistleblower movement, Mao Guo, escaped from China a few years ago and started exposing CCP's unrestricted warfare to bring down the US and the rest of the world. CCP has spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to bring Mao Guo back to China or make him disappear in the US. And the party's global propaganda apparatus and its Western vehicles have succeeded in discrediting and vilifying him in the media world. While he may appear to be a controversial figure for those who don't know him, but for those of us who have escaped China and hope for a free and democratic society for the Chinese people, Mao Guo is a hero. Many say he's crazy. Yes, he is crazy enough to think that he and the Chinese whistleblowers can take down the communist regime, just like how crazy the former British citizens living in America back in 1776. They were crazy enough to make that declaration of independence from the British tyranny. 2. Call your senators and congressmen and demand they take down the CCP. Remind them of the Never Again promise. The Department of Justice introduced the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA, in 1938 to fight Nazi German propaganda. We know 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust, and the West vowed never again to let such a genocide happen to the human race. The CCP has killed more than 80 million Chinese people, and its lab-made virus has killed more Americans than the World War I and World War II combined. America has zero tolerance of Nazi or terrorism. Why in the world is America tolerating the CCP and its propaganda on US soil? Thanks for watching, and see you next time.